everyone, I'm Tony Damian.
And I'm Andrew Rich.
And welcome to Himalayan Bites and our quarter one of 2023 wrap. It's been an interesting quarter, this first one of 2023. As you'll see on the screen, some very interesting and large deals have been announced in that quarter. You might ask, hang on, wasn't Origin announced last year? Well, yes, it was, but they got their SID signed, so we've thrown it in there anyway.
Yeah, what's interesting, Tony, to me is 5 of the 6 deals over $1 billion this quarter are from foreigners. And even more interestingly, 4 of the 6 are from North American bidders. That shows to me what we've always suspected, that there's always going to be good, strong interest in Australian assets from offshore.
What else are we seeing on the bidder front, Andrew? I think that North American aspect has been very interesting this quarter.
Yeah, very much so. The other interesting feature of the deal landscape for Q1 of 2023 has been the involvement of private equity. In some quarters, there's been talk that private equity are just taking a step back and waiting to see what happens. But we've actually seen in Q1 some pretty active involvement in public M&A from our private equity friends. Most notably, we've had the Nitro Software contest for control between KKR and Potentia. We've seen Estia recently the subject of an approach by Bain. And InvoCare, we've seen TPG take a keen interest in them. So lots of interest by private equity.
Certainly has been. Another good question to ask is what sectors are attracting the attention of all of those bidders? I think, Andrew, the clear winner in quarter one is energy and resources. That was one of the sectors that Andrew and I did predict at the end of last year would be red hot in 2023. Mind you, Andrew, we did pick a few sectors, so we're probably always going to be able to say we picked the winner, but energy and resources is a clear winner. And it's not just the energy side of it at all. Certainly the mining side of things is contributing significantly. And when you look at deals like, or situations like Newcrest and Liontown, Essential Metals, Breaker Resources, New Century, and a bunch of others, that's a really significant contribution to the M&A landscape from energy and resources in quarter one of 2023.
Yeah, very much so. The other interesting feature is the number of unsolicited proposals for quality Australian assets. It's a recurring theme. We've seen the Newcrest, Newmont situation, which you've just mentioned. We've seen the Helios situation unfolding right now in the takeovers panel. ACL have approached them with a scrip merger. And then finally, we've also seen the recently announced Tatarang Mincor proposal. So some interesting unsolicited proposals. Be interesting to see whether they proceed. The other interesting thing we're seeing in terms of deal tactics is the auctions for control. We saw the Nitro Software contest for control between Potentia and KKR and a bunch of others. So what it is showing me is that really good quality Australian assets will always be hotly in demand.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing again there is, Andrew, you rightly mentioned the unsolicited proposals and the number of bidders this quarter who've been prepared to go that next step and actually launch the hostile deal, which you don't always see. But Andrew, also of note in quarter one, the promise of scheme reform.
Finally, we've been talking about it for over 20 years. Newly appointed Justice to the Federal Court, Justice Jackman, has made some very significant reforms to the scheme of arrangement regime, which we'll talk about in a future episode of Himalayan Bites.
Well, that's our quarter one 2023 wrap. We give the quarter a 7.5 out of 10. It's a fairly arbitrary judgment, but a tick for some big and interesting deal situations, a tick for a good range of bidders, but perhaps, Andrew, a question mark on how many of those situations will translate into closed deals.
Yes, that is the big question. Thanks very much for joining us today on Himalayan Bites. In our next episode, we'll be talking about those scheme reforms from Justice Jackman. We very much look forward to seeing you next time.